Welcome to Keto and Crime and Thought Crime, Thanksgiving edition. Hope you're had a wonderful holiday. I hope you and your family got to hang out together and have some fun and eat some good food. And with that being said, I thought I would do a very special video for you. Today we're diving in to the Astroworld crowd mass casualty event that occurred in Houston. Astroworld is the festival of Travis, the rapper known as Travis Scott. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we dive in, just a quick note, if you'd like to support the channel, those links are down below. Always appreciated, never required. And with that being said, let's dive in.
Keto and crime, keto and crime. We uncover the grime on keto and crime. Keto and crime, keto and crime. Now is the time for keto and crime.
What happened in Houston, sadly, is not unusual. Mass casualty events at large gatherings of people has been something that has happened for centuries, literally. In fact, going all the way back to the Russian Revolution, if you have seen my video on the last Tsars, the Romanovs, I'll link that up here. Nicholas II's inauguration also had one of these mass casualty events where the crowd was starving. Russian peasants were told that there would be free food and drink at the inauguration, and they all swarmed in to get that and to have a look at their newly sworn, glorious emperor. And there was a mass casualty event where literally over 1,000 people died. So the whole kind of what you would call crowd surge, crowd thought, crowd chaos, not a new thing at all. It's happened for centuries, and it's not the first festival or a large concert to suffer this. If you go all the way back to the original Woodstock, we all hear that Woodstock was this great gathering of bands. It was epic. But if you ask your parents, if you ask your grandparents who were there what it was really like, they're going to tell you about mudslides, not enough water, not enough food, crowd issues. People died at Woodstock. So it's happened a lot, either from poor planning or just negligence, but it has happened before. And so one of the first very similar incidents to what happened at Astroworld, if you trace it back to the Station nightclub fire in Warwick, Rhode Island in 2003. This was basically an accident with some pyrotechnics. Sent the entire club up in flames. The headliner for this particular tour was the 1980s hair band Great White. If you're not sure who they are, they're the ones that had, in my opinion, a one-hit wonder. I know a lot of people are fans of Great White. Nothing against them. I actually had their one hit wonder when I was a kid. But if you remember the song, "Na na na, once bit, twice shy, girl," that's them. That's the one hit. And I know I can't sing for crap, but that's them. Hair band. Well, on February 20th, 2003, they were headlining a small docket of hair bands, and during the night, some of the pyrotechnics they used to light up the song Desert Moon, which is one of their more mainstream hits, and the video actually showed pyrotechnics and fire. It lit up and kind of engulfed some of the flammable acoustic foam that was used in the ceilings and the wall. killing 100 people, injuring 230. Far dwarfs, even what happened at Astroworld. So, there's even like a memorial to the people that died there in Rhode Island. I'm going to put pictures of the disaster and the actual memorial right here. Once the fire ignited, even the band thought it was part of the show. They continued to play, and they said they figured since it's pyrotechnics or video as pyrotechnics, this is part of the show. They continued to play until they really saw what was happening, and Jack Russell, Jack Russell, like the dog, stopped playing and actually said, "Wow, that's not good." And by that time, people were already fleeing from the fire, which led to a mass crowd surge, just like happened at Astroworld. So not only did you have people asphyxiated by the smoke and the carbon monoxide from the burning of the foam, you also had crowd surge that caused people to fall and get crushed. And then you had people succumbing to the flames as well. It was over in about 1 or 2 minutes, but it has lasted, years. The band has formally apologized. Now, I don't want anybody to send Great White any hate, or even the club. I mean, it was not intentional. It was just one of those early 2000s club accidents that is just because of poor planning. It wasn't negligence on the part of them knowing what was happening and refusing to start. As soon as they realized there was a problem, they stopped the show and tried to get people out. And that's what makes them different than Mr. Travis Scott and what happened at Astroworld. Woodstock, even the coronation of the last Tsar of Russia, none of that was intentional, and they tried to control it and stop it as soon as it happened, right up to the incident in Warwick, Rhode Island. All tried to react as a band or an entertainer or a person in power should act and stop it and minimize damage. That's what separates them from Travis Scott, and that's why I think not only is Astroworld going to be definitely a liability, a civil liability with now I think over $2 billion in lawsuits already incoming, but there could eventually be some criminal prosecution there for extreme negligence, because it's not the first time Travis Scott has done this sort of thing, which separates them from them. And I don't want anybody to think that all bands, all entertainers are negligent or, let stuff like this happen. In fact, there's plenty of examples out there of bands actually stopping a concert where really nothing's going wrong. When they see things starting to go wrong, they will actually stop and correct the crowd. In fact, I'm going to put a couple of examples here. Linkin Park and Queen, because I love Linkin Park and I love Queen, and I think it's awesome that they did the right thing by preventing accidents before they happen. So I'm going to drop those clips right here.
We got a little problem up here.
Pick them up right
Everybody
now.
up.
Hey, yo, man. We know we've been stressing all night about being cool, and this is the reason why. Let's go over it one more time. When someone falls, what do you do? Come on. You guys are rooting for the people out there, okay? Everybody stand up and move back a bit. Come on. Are you okay?
And that's what real entertainers do, y'all. Influencer, entertainer, whatever you want to call them. They're responsible, they care about their fans, and they don't allow... They nip it in the bud. Just nip it in the bud. However, that can't be said for one Jock Berman Webster II, also known as Travis Scott. He was born April 30th, 1991 in South Central Houston, where he lived mainly with his grandmother in a part of Houston known as South Park. Evidently, his parents, for whatever reason, could not care for him. They were both gainfully employed, and evidently doing quite well, but for some reason he was living with his grandmother. I couldn't really find a whole lot of information as to why, but was living in essentially a pretty bad neighborhood and grew up seeing atrocities, as you do when you live in very poor, urban, crime-ridden neighborhoods. In fact, he's been quoted as saying, "I saw people looking weird, hungry, grimy, and I said, I got to get the F up out of this S." He said it gave him the edge to go out and be the person that he became. He later did move with his family to Missouri City in a middle-class suburb of southwest Houston and lived with his parents. His mother worked for Apple, and his father ran his own business. So he did finish his growing up in a very middle to upper middle class type of environment. His grandfather was a soul musician, and his other grandfather was a jazz composer. So they actually had a lot of music in their family, and he just naturally took to it. I'm not a big fan of Travis Scott's music, but what I've listened to, you kind of hear those influences of jazz and soul music in it. He attended Elkins High School and graduated at the age of 17, where he was a member of the musical theater and also attended very briefly the University of Texas at San Antonio before he dropped out to pursue music fully. He got interested really in music by watching late 90s music such as Diddy, and ended up starting to make beats with his good friend Chris Holloway, and they released a EP on MySpace. For those of us that remember MySpace, MySpace was the pre-Facebook that was highly geared toward music and live entertainment. A lot of big YouTube stars got their start there, like Jeffree Star. So it was very heavily routed toward music. After he and Chris Holloway parted ways, he formed another duo called the Classmates with 𝐲𝐿 and dropped 2 full-length albums in 2011, highly powered by social media. He produced, engineered, and promoted the albums himself. He later broke up with 𝐲𝐿 and over basically who gets what money and when, and as well as personal artistic differences. In 2012, he was signed as a solo artist to Epic Records and was eventually spotted by Kanye West, who signed him to Good Music later that same year. Where he made a living as a good music artist producing beats for other acts as well as working on original content. In April of 2013, he got a recording contract with T.I.'s Grand Hustle label and released his first solo full-length project. After a very successful run with Good Music and Grand Hustle, he released several different albums, the most popular being that of Astroworld, which is what he named his festival after. If you want to know more about his individual music career, there's a lot more people that can talk to you about it with a lot more accuracy than I can. I'm not a fan of him. Not that there's anything bad about his music, just not my thing. But also, through Kanye West, he did meet Kylie Jenner and began dating her in 2017. And they've had an off and on again relationship that includes children, and eventually officially reconciled after being off again during COVID. They moved in together to kind of raise their children, and it was announced that they were together in September and expecting a second child. Again, not the first time that somebody related to the Kardashians have stuck their nose right in something and caused trouble. Julius Jones. That the Kardashians put their big old noses right in, or big old booties right in that, and helped victimize a already victimized family again. But don't get me started on that. So I have no love for the Jenners or the Kardashians. Look at what Dad Rob did as far as helping get O.J. Simpson's guilty ass off. But let's not get into that. So anyway, he's been nominated for several awards, and Astroworld is his biggest critically acclaimed album to date. It was co-produced with Drake, who's also a co-producer on the Astroworld Festival. As I said at the onset, Travis Scott has had a long history of bad publicity when it comes to how he treats fans at live performances. Going all the way back to Lollapalooza, a major music festival, in 2015, he was charged and arrested for disorderly conduct for inciting concert goers to rush security and rush the stage. And I do have some video footage of that taken from backstage right here.
Keep him there. No. Stay right there. More. He's the real one. That's the real one. More. I want chaos. Don't you kick them off. Don't you kick them off. Let's go. They're not going to stop you. Mike, get down there. Everybody that you see, grab him. Everybody that you see, grab him. He got you. They're not going to stop you. Let's go. Let's go. Hey. Don't you handle them like that. Let them the fuck go. Everybody in the green shirt, get the fuck back. Middle finger up to security right now. Yeah. We want rage.
As you can see, he's agitating. He's not just reacting to what the crowd's doing, he's causing it. It's like chaos reigns at his performances, and there's many more examples of that, which we'll talk about. But chaos kind of reigns. He likes to bring it. He thinks it creates a better experience, and so he's very careless with how he treats things. That same year, 2015, at the Open Air Festival in Switzerland, he encouraged fans to attack a man who took his shoe while he was crowd surfing. So he jumped into the crowd and was being crowd surfed. Well, a fan grabbed his shoe as a souvenir and encouraged the other audience members to turn on him. He stopped the concert. Now, he can stop the concert to tell these people to F him up, referring to the gentleman that took his shoe and spit on the guy. He can stop a concert to have someone beaten up for taking his precious shoe. But he can't stop a concert to stop people from being hurt. That's just... In 2017, he was arrested for very similar aggressive conduct at a performance in Northwest Arkansas. Again, agitating people encouraging people to rush security, rush the stage, without any regard for how they're affecting people around them. That same year, in 2017, at a concert at Terminal 5 in Manhattan, a man sued him after falling from a balcony and being dragged on stage. He blamed the fall on a crowd surge that Scott caused. The gentleman could be seen, according to footage, which I will play for you next, can be seen already being over the balcony, watching the concert, and you can actually hear Scott stop and yell out to him, I see you, are you going to do it? They're going to catch you, don't be scared. So he encouraged this guy to jump from a high balcony to be caught by the crowd. You know, he was encouraging the crowd at one place to beat somebody up, now he's encouraging them to catch him. But evidently they didn't catch him well enough, and he ended up injuring himself and getting sued.
I see you. Hold on, turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. I see you, bro. Are you gonna do it? Give me 18 real quick. I see you, but are you gonna do it? Turn the lights on. Turn the lights on.
same concert, another gentleman by the name of 𝐲𝐚𝐬, age 27, was pushed from a third-floor balcony by the crowd surge that was excited about what was going on and was permanently paralyzed. So do you see a pattern forming here of just how careless Mr. Scott is? And in 2019, 3 people were trampled and injured as a crowd rushed to enter the compound at Astroworld. Can't really blame him for that, because he wasn't performing. It was just kind of a rush at the gate once they opened it for admission. But you can blame the promoter of the event, Live Nation, for that, and they've also been named at some of the current lawsuits as not having proper security, proper crowd control, in addition to Mr. Scott agitating things on. It's kind of like you're promoting this dude's festival. You know he has a history of this crap. Why aren't you prepared for it? So, brings us up to the current debacle, and that is the 2021 Astroworld Festival incident. 10 people died and hundreds were injured in a crowd rush moving toward the stage during Scott's performance at Astroworld Festival in NRG Park in Houston, Texas. Some of the deaths and injuries were as a result of falling, being trampled, heart attacks, not being able to breathe, and during the performance, Scott was yelled at by many crowd members asking them to stop the show. They saw what was going on, and they were trying to get him to stop. Many different videos have surfaced of people trying to get them to stop the show. At the same time, Scott on stage not wanting to stop the show and encouraging more chaos, more rush the stage, more, just kind of we've seen in the other videos, more doing that. The victims range from ages 9 to 27 years old. And I'm going to drop some of the video footage of the chaos that was being allowed to ensue right here.
Stop this show! Stop this show! Stop this show!
Houston, Texas, make some motherfucking noise real quick, y'all.
Stop this show! Stop this show! Stop this show!
Nigga died like 5 songs. There's a guy.
Cell phone flashlights in the air, y'all.
5 songs ago. On the ground.
To people saying the crowd
Go! Hey, go, homie, go, homie.
I see a lot of people that didn't go to the festival trying to blame Travis and trying to blame the security, and even people that were at the festival trying to do this, but I think no one's trying to look at the layout.
This video shows how crowded it was and difficult to get a main out.
Neither Travis Scott nor Live Nation did anything to halt the concert until the Houston police arrived and started actually going into the crowd to get people out. That's how bad it was. He did not even really acknowledge the incident until the next day when it was announced he would pay for the funerals, counseling to all people that had survived it, and refund all tickets to everyone. How nice of you. And then he and the Kardashians went right back to posting their normal selfies the next day as if it never happened. It's this that caused all of the history of his current disregard for safety to emerge. And as a result, over $2 billion worth of lawsuits have been filed against both him and Live Nation, the promoter of the show, for not taking proper measures to crowd control. I've heard a lot said about perhaps other world influences, like maybe he was into the occult and things like that, and that might have caused some of the raving behavior. But as a kid that grew up, as a Gen Xer who grew up going to raves and going up to other things, that kind of crowd psychosis is just something that happens. happens, when the music is pumping, and especially if you had somebody on stage encouraging it, it's just kind of a mass hysteria. I don't think it's supernatural. I don't think it's a cult. I mean, I lived through the Satanic Panic. We were told that, Ozzy Osbourne was really going to make us all eat bats. I mean, I don't buy that. I can't comment on the religious preferences of anybody there, but I do know that mass hysteria is the thing. That's why cults are so successful. You can really, you can push people to do many different things through group psychosis. So I don't think, Felicia, don't come for me, girl. But I don't think that it was any kind of outer world influence. I think it was just being in the moment. If you've ever been in a mosh pit, which I have, it's the same sort of thing. Yes, I used to mosh. I was much younger. But it's kind of the same thing. You get going, you get raving, you really lose all control. You really do. And I think that's what happened here. But the difference between Travis Scott and some of the other people that I mentioned is that they actually took responsibility to stop it before it became a problem. He actually encouraged it. And I think that's why we may eventually see criminal charges filed. Just saying. But that's all we know right now. $2 billion in lawsuits incoming. I will keep you informed on it. And I hope you enjoyed kind of a breakdown of what happened as well as his past and having not so great record with live performances. Until next time, enjoy your Thanksgiving and keep on crying. Out.